Today I had the blessing of attending the Sydney Film Festival screening of Jafar Panahi's The Circle, which is plausibly my favourite of his films. I've admired Panahi's films for a number of years now, and in particular I was always enamoured with his features The White Balloon, The Mirror, and this picture, The Circle. Now Panahi is big news right now, as he recently won the Palme d'Or for his most recent feature, It Was Just an Accident, and he deserves to be celebrated from all corners of the cinematic globe, both for the compositional strengths of his films and in how courageous and convicted he has been in striving for freedom and the rights of the Iranian people against a sickening sadistic government which consists of unrepentant bullies and sociopathic thugs who prefer everyone to be as ruthless and proudly despotic as they have been for the past 45 years. I found myself feeling greatly fortunate indeed when Panahi himself stepped in front of the screen to deliver a brief intro. I was then pretty disappointed when they only allowed for but 3 questions at the end, omitting my own, to my intense anger. I had wanted to ask of Panahi how he felt about transitioning to digital cinematography some 20 odd years ago, if he had had any hesitancy or if he was perhaps eager to make the leap. I did leave the cinema feeling disappointed, yet there is no denying the monumental genius of Panahi's film, which I am confident anyone could view and admire, unless they felt psychopathically proud of tarnishing films about women, films about Muslims, or just films about other cultures in general. Unfortunately, there is enough of those within Australia. Their cosmology is impressing the bullying blokes at the pub. They can't stand the idea that they aren't inexplicably the superior of anyone with remotely differing dispositions or perspectives in their circumstantial lives. But now that I've just tarnished the existence of the wrinkling bullies among the yobbo continuum, I need to share some predictable discontent with the more, say, bourgeoisie of Sydney's prospective film-going audiences, I'm quite sad to say, but not unwilling to say it either. I have some unfortunate criticisms to make of the Sydney quote culture unquote bracket attending these festival screenings, as I'm unsure they will remember these gallant screenings, beyond being able to boast to their other similarly opportunistic cliquey peers about having encountered these majestic works. It does not make them special or unique, and it certainly doesn't make them intrinsically superior to the yobbo dregs who may scorn such works of global culture, as if all of a sudden the high-vis drawlers of these pubs were to enjoy the works of Panahi. I can't imagine the university student demographics being too thrilled for this. Actually, I think they might assume that Panahi had lost a certain chic and move on from him, wearing their superficiality loudly on their social media sharing sleeves. I was at the art gallery today, and I was so richly impressed with some of the work there, classic paintings from Europe's pre-war centuries, as well as enrapturing canvases from Australian painters of the 19th or early 20th century. I have to solemnly share, though, I feel a little bit less compelled by the contemporary static still arts, as I can't help but feel that they are blurb first, visual second, aiming for a generally insular world of bourgeois curators and action-spoken centrist bores who tout progressive values and quite vainly appeal to the concept of identity or a cultural rooting for all aspiring subjects amongst our shared societies, yet I cannot help but feel that certain types may prefer or do fundamentally desire some esteem as well as some degree of material sustenance so that they might continue composing their specific art forms without as much economic stress or imposing immediacy. Many don't want society to change, they just want to share in the experiences of the richer classes and have their own taste of feeling superior to a large segment of the wider population. I'm talking less about the film than some viewers of this upload may like. I feel as though this picture speaks for itself. It is an absorbing script, seamlessly performed, and I think most vitally, superlatively directed, framed, edited, identifying aesthetics and dynamic dispellings of small places and locations and manoeuvring the proceedings of this narrative amongst them. This is not taking place in the saccharinely high-def movie land. This is taking place outside in the nation of Iran, though still more tangible outside, so entrancingly tactile than most or even any Australian films in this instance that might be shot on a more high-end or crisply, alienatingly professional resolution. This isn't to say that such cinematographic sheens may never be as comparably effective, though when seeking to create immersion into a lived-in, utterly real and yet identifiably aesthetically enriching locality, it may be that most or all auteurs are better off employing photographic resolutions which are more familiar or reminiscent of the human eye, which is not a crisp HD camera, but a weary categorizing lens which assesses the contents in front of them as in a a process of organic erosion and material mortality, not the transformative, pristine conversions which HD digital cameras can be on occasion rather guilty of when employed in a flatly unimaginative mode. The Circle's narrative contents would be heartbreakingly relevant now. It could be made in the present day, an identical Iranian feature, and no one would feel as though the presented events are, though they really ought to be so, a vestige of the past. It has been 25 years since The Circle was initially released, and so little has changed. The storyline itself could have been composed today, set in the present moment, and no one would dispute the sufferings of the depicted players, except for the contemptible misogynists and biological errors who consist of the Iranian effective fascistic regime. Imagine a ruling theocracy of unrepentant high school bullies, and you get the Iranian tyrants who are somehow possibly not even in the top 3 most disgusting governing bodies in the wider Middle East, depressingly. Although the contemporary digital wash that the film might be shot in would prospectively dissolve the absolute overall effect of this film inevitably, as the celluloid grants it an aesthetic intrinsically lived-in textured translation of a tangible reality, organically flowing without any disintegrating gloss. If certain films are decisive arguments in favor of not avoiding digital cinematography, but avoiding ultra high def, typically professional digital resolution, and the instances wherein there might be reasons to do so, Panahi expressed it way back now in the year 2000 in what might be his overall masterpiece, in my own view, the rather despairing yet intensely moving exercise that is this classic, a global timeless classic, not just a snapshot of its particular region or directorial scene. Do go give a viewing to, when you have the chance to, The Circle, one of the most essential films of its year, the 2000s, and maybe just even of all time, outright. I sometimes think of the best film of 2000 as being possibly that magnificent Jonas Mekas epic. As I was moving ahead, I came up with a very, very long title for my next film. However, I may confidently place Panahi's The Circle over other cited, and quite worthy, modern classics such as Nolan's Memento, Kar-Wai's In the Mood for Love, Glazer's Sexy Beast. I'm not sure how much people are willing to cite that one nowadays. And it may be on an adjacent part to a work which is rather less known, though I wholly love, Gakuru Ishii's unpredictable, energetic triumph called Gojo Spirit War Chronicle. If you can only watch one of Bahani's films, maybe try out 2000's The Circle. I am confident that more audiences will enjoy it than they might initially expect to. Seriously.